Hi everyone, I hope you're doing great. I wanted to take a brief moment to discuss the question of type and truth, right? And I'm not going to talk about the question of whether type is true, whatever that means, which we most frequently take to mean that um, type says true things about ourselves, right? Which I think that is actually something that people who have an interest in type don't need to ponder for that long, and don't need to ponder it for that long, because insofar as we do things with type, insofar that we find meanings with type, insofar as type blends into life and life blends into type, the fact that type says true things about ourselves is kind of an axiom. It's kind of a presupposition of our very engagement, the credibility of our engagement, with the whole framework of typology. So we take it for granted that type says true things, and the question is not so much does type say true things, because this is a precondition of actually engaging with the whole theory of type, but rather, insofar as it does say true things, what can we do with it that that we find useful for our lives, useful and meaningful for our lives? How can it enrich us? How can it help us? When I say it, I mean, the knowing our type, basically. How can it give us more colorful lives, richer lives, more valued life? How can it maybe help us recover a sense of playfulness, help us attain a more high resolution sense of beauty, morality? Our life has a lot of different components, and flourishing in life also means doing well in all these different respects and having these different spheres kind of integrating and aligning. And type, above anything else, is a vocabulary to in our quest to attain this integration. Another way that you could think about this is we are all engaged in a process of individuation, each are at our different levels, whether or not we are aware of type, right? Most people in the world are not in fact aware of type, and even less of their type. They're still engaged in the process of individuation, but you can make a case that having familiarity with your type and your functions, the function stack that comes with your type that is unique to this type, is an additional arsenal. It's an additional vocabulary and conceptual apparatus and set of images. It's not just concepts, it's not just dry, it's also images, it's also wet in that way, to enrich your journey and give you added strength and added inspiration in your path toward individuation. So you can see that here we have this notion that truth is a precondition of engagement. And it's not so much that truth doesn't matter, is that it's kind of, I know it might sound shocking, but it's almost like not that interesting to talk about, because there's nothing to say about truth in relation to type. This is something that Richard Rorty would have been fond to say in his philosophy, obviously not talking about type, but about truth in general, which is perhaps a more controversial statement. When it comes to whatever it is that we do with type and with our knowledge of our type, the real yardstick of whether it's worth investing time in is really, does it help us flourish, right? In this flourishing, there is happiness, but it's not just about happiness. It's also about aesthetic enjoyment, a feeling of plenitude, a feeling of having a life that's overflowing with color, meaning, and vividness, or at least more so than if type was absent from the picture. And this is something that you have to decide for yourself. But from the moment that you decide to embark on this journey, you are taking it as a matter of course. You're taking it as given that whatever type is saying about you has a truth value to it. Okay, it may not be the most interesting truth, it might sometimes not be the most relevant truth in general or in relation to a particular problem or issue that you're facing, but the truth is not in question. And we're not asking about metaphysical truth, we're not asking about transcendental truth, We're not writing. Essentially, type is not philosophy. A lot of people say that my work is very philosophical, that I have this approach steeped in philosophy to type. In a sense, this is also my niche. This is what distinguishes me. This is why some people enjoy my work. But people enjoy my work, in fact, not because I blend typology, Jungianism and philosophy. They enjoy my work because they enjoy listening to me and they enjoy reading me. And they figure that one of the reasons why they enjoy reading me and listening to me is that my way of thinking, my way of writing, my way of reasoning and portraying is influenced by a certain kind of philosophical temperament. But we're talking about a temperament that I have, an attitude in some sense, and that's resonant with the Jungian type aspect of things. It's not, what they're saying is not that I spend my time quoting Kant or Hegel or Plato or Nietzsche in my books. That would be dreadfully boring. No one would be interested in this apart from a few nerds. We're talking about a temperament. We're talking about an orientation, an attitude. We're not talking about technical philosophy. And for the same reason, we're not technically interested in analyzing the metaphysics of truth in typology. We're interested in sort of asking very concretely, what does it mean for a theory to be true for a particular person who has an interest in the theory? And it turns out what it means for this particular type theory to be true for the person who's interested in it is just one of the assumptions that is taken for granted by the person, who can then move on to, okay, so I take that as true. There's an element of kind of inductive performance in this, but it's for the sake of the overall project of seeing how the blending of type descriptions into the life of the person and the reverse, seeing whether it in fact enhances or depletes the person, adds more color or takes away color, adds more freedom or restricts and constrains, gives a wider vista of one's possibilities or instead constrains them and limits them and blinkers the person. These are questions that are quite practical if you think about it, and do I feel expanded by my knowledge of my type? Do I feel enhanced? Do I feel stimulated? Do I feel excited, energized? Or do I feel depleted, depressed, and like I'm in a straitjacket? So the most important and pressing questions when it comes to the theory of type for people who are actually interested in those theories, and with the exception of only a fraction of the population of people interested in type, is not whether the theory of type is true. It's not that that's not important, it's that we take it for granted. And we're not going to philosophically, in a very anal retentive kind of fashion, going to spend our entire time trying to figure out what truth means, because once you start trying to get a proper concept of truth, to even ask the question in a coherent fashion, you realize nobody really agrees, or people don't agree with each other, and views are actually mutually exclusive. So it's much better to think about, this knowledge of type and this description of type, this thing that it is doing for me, because obviously it is impacting my everyday. Overall, is it positive? Do I feel enhanced? Do I feel more vibrant? Is the world more alive? Or is it not? And that's the real question. And in a sense, that is a thicker, more substantial, and more weighty way of determining whether type is true or not. Let me know in the comments what you think, guys, and please give me a like. If you could give me two, give me two. You probably can't, but it really helps with the referencing. Don't forget that I've written 2 books on the INFJ. One of my most famous ones being the Ecstatic Soul, a new look at the INFJ personality, which is all about the mind of the INFJ. It's the deepest investigation into the mind of the INFJ. You can find it at the link below if you haven't got the book already. And the Infinite Soul is my latest book, the sequel to the Ecstatic Soul. It takes the mind of the INFJ and puts it in the external world, in reality. Hence the title, INFJ Life in the Modern World. It argues that authenticity and adaptation are the key to INFJ flourishing, an enhanced, significant, purposeful, and meaningful life. So check it out. And lastly, guys, don't forget Patreon. The link to Patreon is down below. You get really cool perks like access to a Discord and bonus videos every 2 weeks. It helps me massively. It's a lifeblood of my channel, so please consider supporting me. Okay guys, talk to you soon. Bye bye.